Hey guys, quick reminder, in celebration of Modern Warfare going live, my G Fuel discount code IMMORTAL will now get you 30% off your entire order, but only through the 29th. So if you are looking to grab a new tub, shaker cup, or starter pack, now is the best time to do so thanks to that increased discount. So if you are interested, feel free to take advantage of that, but now on to the regular video. Over the past few days, I, probably like some of you, have spent a ton of time playing Modern Warfare and experiencing all the game has to offer, from the campaign to Spec Ops and of course to multiplayer as well. MW offers a ton of content right up front, and with the amount of detail and customization options we have this year, those looking to really grind out the game will have plenty of things to add to their to-do list. In multiplayer specifically, the Gunsmith feature offers a ton of adjustment options for your weapons, including attachments, camos, and all things of that nature, and something exclusive to Modern Warfare this year is the ability to make blueprint variants of weapons with certain attachment setups. And on a few weapons in specific, you are actually able to create an entirely different weapon with a certain attachment setup. So today we're going to be doing just that with the M4A1 as we take the standard weapon and turn it into the M16 assault rifle, which, as you probably know, is not actually a base weapon in this game. Before we jump into the weapon variant shenanigans though, if you are new here, we have a ton of awesome content coming up here on the channel in regards to MW. So if you do want to stay on top of the latest and greatest news and intel, feel free to subscribe with your notifications on, that way you'll always know when a new video goes live. And of course, if you enjoy this one, let me know by dropping a like rating on it, as it would be much appreciated. And now let's get into building the M16 here in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Now, if you are a Call of Duty veteran, you know all about the M16 by now, as it is one of the most iconic weapons in all of Call of Duty history. Particularly back in COD 4, the M16 was an absolute beast, and in the time since, we've seen it reappear time and time again. This year though, as I mentioned, there is no base M16 in the game. However, thanks to the Gunsmith feature, we can actually build the weapon over time once you level up your M4A1 enough to actually unlock all the necessary attachments. Now, in my case, I am going for the gold camo on the M4A1, so I currently have it at weapon level 71, which is the max weapon rank. But you do not need to have it maxed in this case. However, you will also have to spend at least some time leveling the weapon up to actually unlock these attachments, specifically the weapon perk, which is arguably the most important one of all. Now, jumping into the attachments themselves, we've got 5 in total to really take full advantage of absolutely everything we possibly can. And the first attachment you'll want to have to transform the M4A1 into the M16 is the stock M16 Grenadier barrel attachment. This one is obviously pretty self-explanatory as is, because the attachment is literally based off the M16. And this attachment is essentially the equivalent of the heavy-duty barrel that we saw back in the beta, despite the name being changed. This attachment will not only give the M4A1 a more M16-like look, but it will also increase the damage range, the bullet velocity, and the recoil control in exchange for a slightly worse aim-down sight speed and overall movement speed. Then, the next attachment you'll want to have is the M16 stock, and once again this one is pretty self-explanatory, as M16 is literally in the attachment name. And on this stock in specific, you'll end up getting the M16 look once again, and also increased aiming stability in exchange for a decrease in aim walking move speed. So strafing will be slightly slower with this stock on, but sticking with the M16 theme, we kinda gotta use it. The next attachment I end up having on this setup is a bit more of a preference-based one. This one is not necessarily mandatory like the other ones have been so far for this variant to be complete, but I do like to use the 50-round magazine ammunition attachment, as not only does it replace the tan or khaki color of the stock M4A1 magazine, but it also gives you extra rounds in a magazine in exchange for a slightly slower aim-down sight speed and slightly worse movement speed. Next up, we have another attachment that is not necessarily a direct copy and paste from the stock M16, but rather this is one that not only slightly changes the overall look of the weapon, but it also does help balance out the stats on it a bit more as well, and that is the stippled grip tape. This attachment changes the grip of the weapon to be a black tape, and offers increased aim down sight speed and increased sprint to fire speed in exchange for a slightly decreased aiming stability. Then finally, and also most importantly, the last attachment you'll need for this M16 conversion kit is the weapon perk of Burst. This perk, as the name implies, changes the weapon from a fully automatic rifle to a 3-round burst rifle, which of course matches the iconic M16 fire rate to a T. Also, just based on my personal preference, in the theme of throwing it back to the classic M16, I also have the iconic red tiger camo on there as well to make things look, just extra spicy. Anyways, with those 5 attachments in specific, the M4A1 does essentially turn from the M4A1 as a stock weapon to an M16-like weapon variant. Now, the name itself won't physically change as far as I can tell. On the menu selection screen, it does still say the M4A1 by default, so I manually went in and named this weapon blueprint the M16, thus why you see the M4A1-M16 as its name, and not just the M16 by itself. So just be mindful of that when creating this, and also while we are on the topic of blueprints, if you want, after you end up making this setup, you can save it right away, and that way if you ever want to come back and revisit it later on down the road, maybe adjust it or tweak something here and there, you can just load it up right away with all of the same attachments, and even the same camo, weapon charm, and stickers as before, which is a pretty cool little feature if you ask me. But enough about actually building the weapon variant itself. Let's now talk about how the M16 physically matches up here in Modern Warfare. Based off of my few hours of using this class setup in-game, right away I can say this is a variant built for a much slower paced style of play. This is a setup that definitely does not excel when you are rushing around, trying to aggressively capture flags or retake headquarter positions, etc, etc. I found out very quickly that if you are running around while using this M16 variant, you are probably going to end up getting punished for it in those close and even some of those medium range engagements, which is kind of an interesting dynamic because you're building this variant off of the M4A1, which honestly is one of the single best weapons in the entire game in all types of engagements. Short, medium, long range, it doesn't really matter. So when you make the M16, it really is like making a completely different weapon. Most of that playstyle change, I feel like you can credit to that 3-round burst weapon perk, as obviously a burst rifle is probably going to be a lot less effective than a fully automatic rifle would be in those close range engagements. And with this setup in specific, it is especially noticeable. The M16 variant is really the most comparable to the FAMAS or the FR556, I would say, since they are both burst weapons, and frankly, I would take the FAMAS over the M16 on pretty much every single day of the week, simply because this M16 variant feels so weak, which once again is a bit of an oddity since the M4A1 is so lethal in its natural form. While using this variant, I felt like the only times I would be able to one-burst an enemy is when I found an enemy that was already weakened by a teammate, and in most cases, it was taking 2 to 3 bursts minimum to just get 1 kill. Alongside that, the added burst delay with that 3-round burst perk really does seriously hinder you if you do get caught in a CQC engagement, and thus this weapon is definitely the most effective when used at longer distances. Thankfully, the burst mechanic really does reduce the weapon's recoil, so picking off people in longer range engagements is a bit more doable without having to readjust your sights all that much. But at the end of the day, I just don't really see it being that worthwhile to use the M16 variant if you are really trying to excel in-game. Unless you have some extreme patience and you just like to post up in one spot all match long, or you just naturally try to play those long lines of sight, the M16 blueprint really is outclassed in a lot of ways. In terms of burst weapons, the FAMAS feels way stronger and also just way more consistent overall, and even when it comes to the M4A1 itself, I think the stock M4A1 is far more effective in more situations than the M16 variant is and would be. So this setup is really one that is based more towards just simply having fun, and not so much towards getting some kind of competitive advantage in-game. But with all of that being said, that is effectively how you can make the M16 assault rifle here in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. If there are any other classic COD weapons that you want to see blueprint tutorials for, drop them down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, let me know, drop a like rating on it as it would be much appreciated. And of course, if you are new here and you want to stay up to date with everything going on in the world of Call of Duty, feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on, that way you'll always know when I post a new video. As I mentioned in the intro, from now until the 29th, my G Fuel discount code IMMORTAL will get you 30% off your entire order. So if you do want to snag a new shaker cup, a new tub, or just simply try G Fuel for the very first time, now is without a doubt the best time to do so. Once again, thanks so much for tuning in, And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the battlefield. Peace out.